What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here to give you the fatal flaw for every NFL contender this 2020 season. We are 5 games in to the NFL season, and I want to give you the top 10 contenders in each conference and then go team by team and analyze what the fatal flaw, the missing piece, the back-breaking element of this roster or this team is that could keep this contender from going all the way and winning the Lombardi Trophy. Before I give you the fatal flaw for every NFL contender in 2020, Gronk spike the like button, subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this, and also comment your opinion. What is the fatal flaw for every NFL contender? If you just want to leave the fatal flaw for your favorite team, let me know in the comment section below. And don't forget to head over to Instagram and follow Loyal to the Game, the new startup Madden League here on the Bottom Line View that I and a group of friends will be covering on the channel. So please go over there on social media, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. The way I'll be ordering each team in each conference is by their current record through 5 weeks this NFL season. So no previous bias. This isn't a power ranking. This is just more about the fatal flaw, not about the order of the team that I talk about. I had to throw in the NFC East to this conversation, I know, but it's mandatory. Let's start with the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 1-1-2 through 5 games. The Eagles' fatal flaw to me is their passing offense. Now, I would have just said like 1 or 2 weeks ago that it was Carson Wentz, because Carson Wentz was playing like Blaine Gabbert like a couple weeks ago, but he's flipped it around. He's playing a little bit better. He's been a little bit more efficient, less turnover prone. But overall, the Philadelphia Eagles passing offense has just straight up been their demise so far. And the reason they are not leading the NFC East, they are 30th in net yards per attempt. Wentz is getting pressured. He's getting sacked. And when they're throwing the football, they have not been successful on a per play basis. They have not been efficient. Wentz is not getting the ball out of his hands, and when he is, he hasn't been accurate. They are 32nd in interceptions. Wentz is last in interceptions thrown, and he is only 25th in touchdowns thrown. He's also 26th in yards. So everywhere you look statistically, the Eagles have just been bad when throwing the football. The number 9 contender in the NFC is the other NFC East team that I think is relevant to this conversation, the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I could say that Dak Prescott not being there is their flaw, but I'm not going to go with that route. They are 2-3, and I could also say the Dallas Cowboys, their defense is the flaw, right? No D in Dallas. Everybody's saying that. Well, I actually think their flaw is the turnover battle. They have been terrible with turnovers and protecting the football. This is the reason the Cowboys have been so bad this year. The reason they've disappointed, the reason they're 2-3 below 500 is because they keep coughing up the football. Turnover battle is the biggest indication to who's going to win a football game. And when you lose it, your chances, your odds of losing a game dramatically go up. The Cowboys are near dead last in turnovers. They're 31st in the NFL, and they're only 28th in takeaways. So they're giving the ball away a lot, and they aren't taking it away. So no wonder they're coughing up leads. And how do I know they're coughing up a lot of leads this year? I don't even got to look at the box score. Let's look at one stat. They have allowed the second most rushing attempts. Why is that? Because teams are leading in these games, and they're running the ball. That's exactly what happens. They've also allowed the 27th most rushing yards. So when teams are up, they're running the ball, but they're also running it successfully, so they're not able to get off the field, and they're giving up points, keeping the pass defense on edge, the pass rushers unable to get after the quarterback and make plays and create turnovers, and it's a trickle-down effect. Your offense that's supposed to be one of the best in the league is giving the ball to the defense for free. Hey, here you go, especially Zeke. And then the defense is off balance because teams can now run, they can pass, they can play action you, and that's not the position they need to be in, they can be in to be successful. Now, this could change with Andy Dalton at quarterback, but Dak was playing really well. So this may come down to a coaching thing. This may come down to a security thing, a message in the locker room. I don't know what it is, but the Cowboys they really need to stop turning the ball over. The number 8 contender in the NFC for 2020 is the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are 3-2 thus far this season. They've had some bad games. They've also had a couple of nice performances this year. Just like the Cowboys, the Cardinals, the reason they're losing most of the time is because of the turnover battle. But this might be even worse than Dallas. They are 30th in interceptions, which means that Kyler Murray, who a lot of people would say is their best player or was supposed to be coming into the year and an MVP candidate, is giving the ball to the other team. He's making mistakes. And a Cardinals team that is flawed around their roster, that is counting on Kyler being a stud, star, superstar, he cannot be turning the ball over and giving the ball to the other team. He just cannot, because this team is not built to do that. On the defensive side, they're last in turnover percentage. Last. So Kyler is giving the ball away and the defense isn't getting it back. The Cardinals need to fix it just like Dallas. If they can get back on track. Kyler, protect the football, man. Give your defense a chance. The number 7 NFC contender is the Carolina Panthers. Not a team that I thought I would say through 5 weeks is one of the better teams in the NFC, but I mean, they are above 500, so that's great. The Panthers, 3-2. It's a great story. I'm not willing to quite buy in just yet, but the biggest flaw from a football statistical perspective is their run defense. They rank 31st in yards per attempt, 25th in yards allowed. They have a weaker defensive linebacker position that is now a little bit beat up. And they are very young on defense. They have played above their heads. They are coaching fantastically. I'm not quite buying it. A big reason is because I think teams down the stretch will be able to overpower them because of this run defense, which will allow other teams, more talented, better teams, in my opinion, to be able to dictate pace of play, time of possession, forcing Teddy into uncomfortable positions. And ultimately, that's where the Panthers will start to lose games. But as long as they can keep it up on offense and score, they could hang around as an underrated team in this league. The number 6 contender in the NFC, according to record, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 3-2. The Bucs could easily be undefeated. Not 1 loss, not 2, but undefeated. The biggest reason the Bucs have lost 2 games is because of the Bucs. Stupidity. Penalties. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers' biggest flaw is beating themselves. They did it last year, and they so far have done it through 2 games. Now, Tom Brady has been good enough. Their defense has been better and good enough to allow them to be above 500. But we saw versus Chicago, we saw versus New Orleans that the penalties really hurt them. That miscues really hurt them. The Bucs have the most penalties in the NFL, the most pre-snap penalties in the NFL, which are the worst kind, and by far the most penalties on the road. And that's without fans. I don't know if it's a communication issue. I don't know if it's an aggressive style of play issue on both sides. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know what it is. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have shot themselves in the foot twice this year. Maybe, I would say 3 times. You know, if it wasn't for a Tom Brady ridiculous comeback, they'd be 2-3. So the Bucs really mentally need to get in it, or else they're not going to reach their expectations. The number 5 contender in the NFC is the New Orleans Saints, who are also 3-2 in that NFC South. The Saints, a lot has been discussed about Drew Brees and his right arm and his inability to throw the ball down the field. I've said that many times. I'll continue to state it. I think Brees is kind of washed right now. He's not the same player. He can still get it done to a certain degree, but if you ask him to throw the ball and make big plays, their explosive downfield passing attack is no longer there. But the real flaw to me right now that I see being long-term is their defense, specifically their speed on defense, and overall, they are just giving up way too many points, big plays, and they're allowing mismatches all over the field at the running back, tight end positions. They are allowing the most points per game, and they have allowed 23 points in every game this year on a minimum. They have yet to hold an opponent under 20 points. A defense that was expected to be top 10, that still has very good players, has just not been able to perform to that standard. We know Drew Brees is not going to be able to get his arm back. But this defense right now, if they cannot step up and play better like an elite unit, this is not the team we thought they could be. This is not a Super Bowl contender. This is not an NFC championship caliber team. If that defense, it remains one of the worst in the league, and Drew Brees is having to be relied on to win shootouts like he did 10 years ago, it's just not going to happen. The number 4 NFC contender, the Chicago Bears. The Bears are 4-1. They only have one loss. They might be one of the worst 4-1 teams of all time, but you got to give them credit where credit is due. Their coaching has been fantastic. I think Matt Nagy's had a great year thus far. Their defense is playing outstanding, especially Khalil Mack right now. But the quarterback, that's the flaw. Can you really see a team with this bad a quarterback play on a weekly basis with Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky? Can you expect one of those guys to lead this team to the promised land? I can't. Maybe they can make the playoffs because the rest of their roster is solid and they're performing well. But it's ugly, man. With that quarterback, you just can't have any margin for error anywhere else on your roster. You can't afford to have a bad day defending the run or rushing the passer. You can't afford to have a bad day on your offensive line. You can't have a bad day if you drop a couple passes. Because the quarterback position in Chicago is just not that good, they can't afford the rest of their team falling asleep at the wheel like other teams can. The number 3 contender in the NFC through 5 weeks is the LA Rams. The Rams are 4-1, and they lost that one game, as I brought up earlier, to the Bills in a comeback effort, very close to a victory. Now, some would argue that they could have lost to Dallas as well, but this is the biggest flaw for the Rams. It's actually nothing to do with their team right now. I think the Rams are an example through 5 weeks of an average team beating up on a terrible, dreadful, awful division. They are 4-0 versus the NFC East, the worst division in football by a mile. It's not even close. It's not even discussion. NFC East is horrendous. And the Rams are 4-0. All right? They have one loss, and it came outside the NFC East. You can crown the Rams the champions of the NFC East through 5 weeks. And actually, 4 wins might be enough to win that division, to be quite honest with you. But that's the way I see it. The Rams are an average team. They got an average roster. They got a couple spectacular players, especially on defense. Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. They're coached up very well. They likely will make the playoffs. But when they face top-tier teams, we haven't really seen that yet much. I don't think they'll be able to get the job done because they're not really elite in any area across the board. The number 2 contender in the NFC right now is the Green Bay Packers. The Packers, led by Aaron Rodgers, who seems to be back in prime MVP form, has led this team on a fantastic 4-game start to the season. The Packers, though, just like the Rams, have played an absolutely beautiful, easy schedule. I mean, the Packers have played, 4 teams that have combined for 5 wins? 2 teams with 1 win each, and a team with 0 wins. Those are 3 of their victories. 3 of their 5 wins for those opponents came from the Saints. I just have not seen the Packers yet play an elite team, and that's my problem. I need to see it before I truly believe the contendership. Now, the other flaw that I would say with the Packers is, because this happened last year, they played an easy schedule. They waltzed to a 2nd seed and a bye. but they got steamrolled by a better roster, better team in the NFC Championship. So the same thing could happen this year. The Packers could be like 12 or 13 and 3, 12 and 4. But they might not be tested much this year, which leads me to believe is the same thing going to happen in the playoffs. Now, the same flaw exists. They really can't stop the run. I think they're 25th in rushing yards per attempt allowed. So that flaw is still there, just nobody's really taken advantage of yet. The number one contender in the NFC and perhaps the best team in the NFL right now, the Seattle Seahawks. But the funny thing is, in 2020, the NFL is flawed. Every team is flawed. I truly do not think there is a historically great team in the league this year. I just don't think that. I think there will be a Super Bowl champion, as there is every other year, but I don't think it's going to be going down in history as one of the best teams we've seen, even in the last 20 years. The Seahawks this year are really awesome because they have Russell Wilson, who might be the best player in the NFL, DK Metcalf, who might be the best receiver in the NFL, Tyler Lockett, and a few guys on defense that make up for the dreadful rest of the defense, and Pete Carroll, who has a positive attitude and is a very good coach. The Seahawks are the Seahawks. They're going to play you close, but they're ultimately going to come out with the win. Russell Wilson's been torching teams, and they've been letting Russ cook. I think that's probably like the 7th billion time somebody said that. The fatal flaw for the Seahawks is their passing defense. Their pass defense is awful. Their pass rush is one of the worst in the league, 28th in adjusted sack rate. They really don't have one pure pass rusher that can get after it and make plays. And their secondary has been below average, especially when Jamal Adams and Quentin Dunbar have been unable to play. Now, I actually think their secondary will get better with time, with chemistry, with games under their belt together. But that pass rush is going to cause them to be just absolutely aired game after game versus good quarterbacks and good passing offenses. The Seahawks might be the best team right now. The Packers might be the best team. You may say the Chiefs are still the best team. But to me, every one of these teams is flawed. That's what makes this video so interesting. Which flaw will end up costing the top teams in the NFL? And which team, more importantly, can overcome their flaw and win it all? Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. It's Mitch of TheBottomLineView. Thanks for watching. Peace.